Genesis chapter 41. And it comes to pass at the end of 2 years of days that Pharaoh is dreaming, and behold, he is standing by the river, and behold, from the river coming up are 7 cows of beautiful appearance and fat in flesh, and they feed among the reeds. And behold, 7 other cows are coming up after them out of the river, of bad appearance and lean in flesh, and they stand near the cows on the edge of the river. And the cows of bad appearance and lean in flesh eat up the 7 cows of beautiful appearance and fat. And Pharaoh awakens, and he sleeps and dreams a second time. And behold, 7 ears are coming up on one stalk, fat and good. And behold, 7 ears, thin and blasted with an east wind, are springing up after them. And the thin ears swallow the 7 fat and full ears. And Pharaoh awakens, and behold, a dream. And it comes to pass in the morning that his spirit is moved, and he sends and calls all the enchanters of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh recounts to them his dream, and there is no interpreter of them to Pharaoh. And the chief of the butlers speaks with Pharaoh, saying, I mention my sin this day. Pharaoh has been angry against his servants, and puts me in confinement in the house of the chief of the executioners, me and the chief of the bakers. And we dream a dream in one night, I and he, each according to the interpretation of his dream, we have dreamed. And there is with us a youth, a Hebrew, a servant to the chief of the executioners. And we recount to him, and he interprets to us our dreams. To each, according to his dream, has he interpreted. And it comes to pass, as he has interpreted to us, so it has been. Me he put back on my station, and him he hanged. And Pharaoh sends and calls Joseph, and they cause him to run out of the pit, and he shaves and changes his garments, and comes to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh says to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it, and I have heard concerning you, saying, You understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answers Pharaoh, saying, Without me, God answers Pharaoh with peace. And Pharaoh speaks to Joseph, In my dream, behold, I am standing by the edge of the river, and behold, out of the river coming up are 7 cows, fat in flesh and of beautiful form, and they feed among the reeds. And behold, 7 other cows are coming up after them, thin and of very bad form and lean in flesh. I have not seen like these in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the bad cows eat up the first 7 fat cows, and they come into their midst, and it has not been known that they have come into their midst, and their appearance is bad as at the commencement. And I awake, and I see in my dream, and behold, 7 ears are coming up on one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, blasted with an east wind, are springing up after them. And the thin ears swallow the 7 good ears. And I tell it to the enchanters, and there is none declaring it to me. And Joseph says to Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. That which God is doing he has declared to Pharaoh. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and bad cows which are coming up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears, blasted with an east wind, are 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is doing. Behold, 7 years are coming of great abundance in all the land of Egypt, and 7 years of famine have arisen after them. And all the plenty is forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine has finished the land. And the plenty is not known in the land because of that famine afterward, for it is very grievous. And because of the repeating of the dream to Pharaoh twice, surely the thing is established by God, and God is hurrying to do it. And now let Pharaoh provide a man, intelligent and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh make and appoint overseers over the land, and receive 1/5 of the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty. And they gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and heap up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, food in the cities. And they have kept it, and the food has been for a store for the land, for the 7 years of famine which are in the land of Egypt, and the land is cut off by the famine. And the thing is good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh says to his servants, Do we find like this a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh says to Joseph, After God's causing you to know all this, there is none intelligent and wise as you. You are over my house, and at your mouth do all my people kiss. Only in the throne I am greater than you. And Pharaoh says to Joseph, See, I have put you over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh turns aside his seal ring from off his hand, and puts it on the hand of Joseph, and clothes him with garments of fine linen, and places a chain of gold on his neck, and causes him to ride in the second chariot which he has. And they proclaim before him, Bow the knee. And he set him over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh says to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without you a man does not lift up his hand and his foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh calls Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah, and he gives to him Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, for a wife. And Joseph goes out over the land of Egypt. And Joseph is a son of 30 years in his standing before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph goes out from the presence of Pharaoh, and passes over through all the land of Egypt, and the land makes in the 7 years of plenty by handfuls. And he gathers all the food of the 7 years which have been in the land of Egypt, and puts food in the cities. The food of the field which is around each city has he put in its midst. And Joseph gathers grain as the sand of the sea, multiplying exceedingly, until he has ceased to number, for there is no number. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the year of the famine comes, whom Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, has borne to him. And Joseph calls the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God has made me to forget all my labor, and all the house of my father. And the name of the second he is called Ephraim, for God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty are completed, which have been in the land of Egypt, and the 7 years of famine begin to come, as Joseph said, and famine is in all the lands. But in all the land of Egypt has been bread, and all the land of Egypt is famished, and the people cry to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh says to all the Egyptians, Go to Joseph, that which he says, you do. And the famine has been over all the face of the land. And Joseph opens all places which have grain in them, and sells to the Egyptians. And the famine is severe in the land of Egypt, and all the earth has come to Egypt to buy, to Joseph, for the famine was severe in all the earth.